Alright, welcome. It is June 19th, and I'm in the mood to make some more content, apparently. This one happens to be about a topic I've never discussed before. I don't know why, I probably should have. It's about what to do when you're in jail, and why. For those who choose to resist the courts by challenging jurisdiction, specifically. I don't know how to, not get your butt kicked, or how the routine goes. I've never been in jail longer than like 48 hours, something like that. This isn't about that. This is about how to, through your behavior, help your cause by going over what to do and what not to do. And this is just my opinion, obviously, right? I'm going to tell a couple of stories about what I've done, why I think it was effective, a little bit of background, and just tossing some ideas out there, right? So I'm not trying to be a subject matter expert, but I've got very, very good reasoning and logic behind why I do what I do, while, again, challenging jurisdiction, which is, I should say, something very few people try, and of those people who try, very few people actually pull off effectively, in my humble opinion. So buyer beware, alright? Alright, so first off, let me just go over that this all started for me, this part of what I do, what I know, I guess, 20 years ago, okay? So I was considering going into the military. I happened to. And I very much wanted to know what I was getting myself into should we ever go to war and I have to be in any kind of a POW experience. I couldn't get that personally until the training came along. So in the meantime, before I actually went active duty, I just started reading every book I could find by people who had been POWs and written a book about their experiences. And if you put all these books together, they're probably 3-4 feet long. I would just go to the damn bookstore, this is, before the internet was huge, and pick up a paperback for $5, $6, $7. And they're super interesting reads. It was not hard to get through. My point is this. Obviously, in all that material, the authors discuss at great length what happened, what they did, what maybe they would have done differently, why, what were the responses, what was all of the psychology going on every side they could speak authoritatively about, what happened to them, what happened to their friends, all of this information, right, about being a POW in a jail. And I know what you might be thinking right now is, whoa, wait, being in the county jail for held in contempt or because you were cop watching or whatever reason is a bit different than World War II, Vietnam, Korea POW experiences. What are you doing? If you have the background knowledge of the lessons learned from these authors of their POW experiences, that is way far and above the county jail. So you're way prepared, is my point. You're ridiculously prepared. Just the psychological knowledge alone is worth the time. You get a tried and true perspective on what goes on the prisoner side, what goes on the guard side, different types of guards, different types of situations, tactics, psychologically how they're trying to manipulate you, all of this stuff. And I can't fit all that in a few minutes on a video, but that was my best effort. Okay, so keep in mind, before I ever went to jail, I had this crazy background of knowledge from real world stories, according to these authors. And by the way, it was quite common for more than one person in a given prison to write a book. So you'd have 3 guys in a cell of 10 guys for a year or two, plus or minus, and 3 of those guys would write a book. So you'd be able to compare their perspectives and see where they were consistent or see where they had a different perspective. And so it's not just taking one person's word for it. Obviously a guy who writes a book about this and is going to put his stamp of approval on it is risking his entire reputation for the rest of his life on his integrity about this being the truth according to the best of his memory. So just highly credible information is how I judge it. All right. So everybody's different. I don't expect everybody to react like I do or be how I am and all that good stuff. This is just, again, my version of it. Okay. So the kind of place I come from is I obviously cannot stand to be bullied by anyone or anything, to be coerced, to be threatened, to have someone attempt to intimidate me. To say I can't stand it is a huge understatement. I will change everything about my life in order to prevent that from happening. I only say that not to... A lot of the things I'm going to say during this could be construed as like some humble brag. I'm sorry. That's probably why I haven't made the video and videos like this. I just hate the idea of doing this humble brag shit. But the point is that this is good information, backed up by real world experience. I did a few things right, and they worked. Oh yeah, and they worked. Okay, the proof is in the pudding. Like, they worked. Nothing really went in a negative direction because of what I was doing in jail. It got nothing but better and better and better and better for me until all charges were dismissed in multiple cases. Alright. If you're challenging jurisdiction, you are doing the most effective form of challenge, most effective form of resistance to the domestic terrorism that is known as the state, the government. The most effective of all the methods. You are on the bullseye, the most effective one. And there's none that are tied with it. This is first place by itself. When they figure that out, you are now a threat to their credibility. And because of the internet, and if you're putting this stuff out on the internet, this is not something they want spreading whatsoever, right? They will go to great lengths to wear you down, until finally when they realize this guy isn't going to be worn down, then they'll dismiss the charges. Okay, so just keep this in mind. If you go in challenging jurisdiction and for some odd reason you find yourself in jail, maybe you missed a court date and they won't give you a break. Maybe you got pulled over and had a warrant you didn't know about. Maybe you got held in contempt because the judge is a psychopath who just said, I'm going to shut them up by putting them in jail for 4 hours. I've experienced almost all of those, if not all of those, I think. I've been arrested 6 times. No matter what it is, if you go in challenging jurisdiction, you're not going to be put in a certain category. Basically what you're saying is, and this is the message that you want very much to get across as quickly as possible, so they stop messing with you as quickly as possible, and it is, I am not afraid of you now, nor will I ever be. I am not going to quit resisting you now, in this most effective way to resist you, nor will I ever stop doing so. I can't be worn down. I can't be scared. Jail doesn't scare me. Your bailiffs don't scare me. You don't scare me. This scenario doesn't scare me. I own you, and we both know it. That's the whole psychological backdrop. I'm gonna humiliate you and embarrass you and have these people behind me and everyone online laughing at you. You can't get me angry. I control my emotions. You don't. You're not gonna win here. You are not going to win here. Look in my eyes and see. Am I blinking? Do you think I'm bluffing? You can make any move on your chessboard you want. I have a 10 times as effective counter move to that. And you're only going to humiliate and embarrass yourself further with every step. Tough words. Watch me back it up. Watch me. Hey, let's play. Ready? Go. This is the kind of communication that comes across when you're challenging jurisdiction in a courtroom. Effectively, especially. Now, notice there's no anger in that. There's just matter of fact, and if anything, a little bit of mockery. Okay. So you get pegged as one of these resistors. Maybe I could have used a better phrase there. So you get marked as a person who challenges jurisdiction and someone they can't control and manipulate or make angry. And then you find yourself in jail. Or you're just cop watching and you find yourself in jail. Regardless, what you do in jail very much matters. At some point in time, you are being watched. Now, if you just get picked up off the street for cop watching and it goes wrong and you end up in jail, like I did in Leon Valley and several others, they're not going to know you challenge jurisdiction. This still applies. Whether they do or whether they don't, assume you're being watched at all times. You need to act like someone who has what I just mentioned, the attitude, has that in them 24/7. The last thing you ever want to act like is sad, dejected, frustrated, depressed, bored. Any negative emotion whatsoever, do not display. If you gotta fake it till you make it, so be it, but you assume they're watching at all times. Okay. So, let me give you some real world example. One time I got held in contempt, and I had been whipping their ass with a jurisdictional challenge for months. I had my game face on the whole time. I was choosing every word I said very, very carefully. I was not rambling or saying anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. From the bailiff who took me to the jail cell to the whole time I was in the jail cell. I assumed they had a mic on. I assumed they were listening. And for those 4 hours, I acted like they had just done fucked up and they were only going to make things worse for themselves. And that this wasn't getting to me in the slightest. If anything, I was laughing at them about it. Laughing reeks of confidence. And confidence is born of prior success. And if you are in the scariest of all scary environments when it comes to courtrooms and legally being threatened with everything they can threaten and do to you, if you have success in that environment and you're confident and you're laughing, they never see that. They know you are not rattled. This jail ain't nothing to you. If they believe that jail is not a deterrent for you, they're less likely to use jail. If they believe that jail is only going to make you more motivated to fight them even longer and harder, and while putting this all up online, because you've got a live streaming YouTube channel, remember, they're going to be less likely to use jail. That's what I want. I don't want to fucking go to jail. Who does, right? But I need them to know this as quick as possible, so I will act in this way. And this is how I think, for someone who has the time and ability, you're not coerced by different whatever circumstances in life where you can actually take the time to go effectively fight and challenge jurisdiction. This is what I would do. I was pacing. I'm naturally, anytime in life I feel anxiety, I will pace. I'm just a pacer. It doesn't happen often to me, but every once in a while, maybe once a year, once every other year, life will just cause some stress. You will find me pacing. Just half an hour, an hour. I'll just pace until it aches. So I'm pacing in this jail cell back and forth along the benches. I'm standing on the elevated platforms, concrete platforms they use for benches and beds or whatever. This is just a holding cell in a courthouse, not a real jail. So I'm just pacing, back and forth like a tiger in a cage, because that is exactly what they have. And I'm talking to the judge. They put me off in the corner, so I couldn't really see anyone else, but for all I know, there's bailiffs there listening. There was a whole cell full of girls for some reason, half a dozen girls in the cell, like two away from mine. Nobody could see each other, but I knew they could hear me. I'm just going off on using logic and ethics and actual reality to call out the truth of what just happened and what I'm going to do about it and how I know what they're doing and why. That there is nothing behind the curtain that I don't see. That there's no illusion of theirs that I buy. And it's extremely... I am a king when I'm in jail. I own that joint. Again, it's not about being angry, it's about being supremely confident. They cannot rattle you. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't be serious all the time and never have a sense of humor. If there's other people in jail with you, smoking and joking, cool. Just don't do anything goofy, dorky, geeky, pranks. You know what I mean? You always want to be the epitome of a fully grown and mature man. I would do things like exercise. Exercise is great in jail. Because a person who exercises is not like depressed and feeling down and just hating life. It says, I exercise at home. I take care of my body physically, my mind mentally. This is the kind of person I am. This is what you're up against. And I just happen to know some like jujitsu exercises because, you know, I was in the town of BJ Penn. I went to his school a few times before I realized there were cops there. And so I did a couple specific, you know, of his jujitsu exercises in my cell. Another thing I did was, I don't know if I was actually meditating or just pretending, but I would pretend to be meditating. Now this is never a bad thing. All I'm talking about when I say meditating is I would sit on the floor, cross-legged, I put my hands palm down on my knees. And I'd be facing away from the camera and the door so they couldn't see my face. And I would just sit there quiet and still for as long as I could. And there's no clocks in there, but I would guess it was about a half an hour. You want them to know, oh yeah, this guy can chill. He obviously is capable of having a calm mind in a stressful situation. This guy exercises and meditates. They don't see this all the time in jail. Right? So, walking, talking, exercising. When I would try to sleep, they would purposefully come in every 2 hours. They did this 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night just to wake me up, just to piss me off, just to make me uncomfortable, just to disrupt my sleep. And every time, you cannot get pissed. You cannot show any of that. You control your emotions. They have zero ability to control or influence your emotional state of being. They need to know that. You need to impress upon them that you are one in a million. You need to be better and different than all the other prisoners they've ever seen. This is just my humble opinion. Alright? Part of the stuff I was telling you I did in jail was actually not just the contempt of court charge, but after they raided my home charge, and I went in and turned myself in, and I was in there. You know what? One of them was too when I got that free speech arrest on a Saturday morning, and I was in for 48 hours. Some of that was from that story too. One time I was really super pissed, and I for 2.5 hours just ranted, and undid their entire system. Broke it all down, how challenging jurisdiction is, what it is, and why, and just talk shit to them and insulted them. Not in like a super unprofessional way, in a real biting and hurting way, like talking to the cops or whatever, you know, the judge or whatever. Like every decision you have ever made in the totality of your life, all of your experiences, have concluded in a complete and total failure and a fraud. You are living a lie. You inflict violence upon innocent men, women, and children, and think nothing of it. You're a solipsistic, antisocial psychopath. You actively work against the betterment of society. And the worst, you know this. Everything about you is bullshit. If your kids knew the truth, they would disown you. You deserve to die in a car fire today, clawing at the glass. You're a horrible human being. Just that one time I was pissed, I would go off like that. I'm not suggesting that, but you don't want to swear. Why don't you want to swear? Cops, lawyers, and judges determine how effective you're going to be at defending yourself in front of a jury based on how a jury would perceive your behavior. So if you act in a way that a jury wouldn't make them go, ugh, that guy's a jerk. No, I'm not gonna vote for his way. I'm voting for the government's way. Fuck that guy. You need to act in a way where the jury would never do that. That's why I'm so calm when I cop watch. Cops will give you more leeway and not jump to abuse of power if they sense that this guy's gonna look good in front of a jury. They're wary of being sued. They get training on how not to get this police department sued. And they do the same thing in jail. All right. I would tell them things like, you know, part of me hopes you put me in jail. Put me in the real jail, not your puss-ass county, police station jail here. Put me in the real jail. I know all of this. I share all of this with people and they believe me. What do you think's gonna happen? You can't keep me in solitary confinement forever. You think you've got a problem with just the motions I filed? How about if half of everybody in that jail files the same motions? I'm going to turn this place into a snow globe of paperwork, and then I'm going to put it all online. Put me in general population. I dare you. I'd love to see how effective I would be. Just saying stuff like this. You're not afraid. They're only going to make it worse for themselves. And whatever dinky ass charge they've got on you is not worth what they're risking happening locally and online. I'm going to file a complaint with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, a formal one, and it's going to be well written, and it's going to be pointed with a flashlight straight up your ass, Judge. I'm going to put your full name in the title of a YouTube video all by itself. So if anyone wants to search you on YouTube or Google, which are the number one and number two most popular search engines in the world, it's going to point to my video about you on the first page. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, your bosses, your subordinates, all of them are going to know exactly what you're doing, how you're getting away with it, and how I am able to expose every single minute of it. I will forget nothing. I will forgive nothing. You will be very fortunate if I play by nonviolent rules during the rest of this, because as you well know, there's a lot of life outside of a courtroom where you have all the power. For all they know, you're just talking to yourself in your cell. It's not like you're threatening anybody. They have to know. I'll say it again. You are not afraid of these people, of the process, of jail, of potential fines. You cannot be coerced. You are uncoercible. Do you have a kid? You have to explain your actions, your reactions to coercive threats of violence by the government to your child and still be able to look in the mirror and see a man. You want your child to see a man, right? Then you've got to let them know every motivation you've got. Daddy, where'd you go? I had to go to jail. Why? Well, because they said I wore red shoes on the second Tuesday of the month. What? Like, did you have to pay the money? Yeah, I did. Why? Do you really want to not have an answer to that other than because I obey bullies? Because I conform to power? They need to know all of the sooner they figure this out about you, the sooner you're going to be free from them. All charges dismissed. Prosecutor never provided any factual evidence regarding the element of jurisdiction. You're correct. I am unconvinced by their counter-argument. All charges dismissed. Oh, here's a letter in the mail. You know, we arrested you for that free speech thing where you didn't do anything wrong on a public sidewalk, but here's a letter from the prosecutor's office because we do not want you coming in here challenging jurisdiction over this bullshit arrest. All charges dismissed. Hey, looks like you were speeding a little bit. You got your ID? They come back 10 minutes later. Oh, this is just going to be a warning. Why? Because they do not want you in their courtrooms challenging jurisdiction. So if you're doing that and you end up in jail, or even if they don't know about that challenge and you end up in jail, you need to act the part. If this comes naturally to you, great. If it doesn't, fake it till you make it. They are watching. Assume it. How many people out of 100 get scared and give up? Plead guilty, pay the fine, because they don't want to deal with the hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing of wasted time and bullshit slinging. The sooner they find out you're one of the few, you are good. Alright, that's most of what I want to say. I think, is there anything last I gotta remember to tell you? Smile in your photo and close your eyes. Close your eyes and smile. They will not put their hands on you and force your eyes open. They're going to say, don't smile, we're taking it again. Don't smile, we're taking it again. They can take as many times as they want. Close your eyes and smile. It's the best way to have your, if you even have to, get your picture taken. I'm a guy just living in the world like the rest of you. I see the news just like the rest of you. I see people interact with the police and get mistreated and not know how to defend themselves. And I get sick of fucking seeing it. It's bothersome. It's so bothersome that I do not watch interactions with cops and civilians anymore. It's rare when I click on a video because it pisses me off and I don't like being pissed. I want people to know how to defend themselves. This is how you defend yourself while you're in jail. And if you're ever in jail in general population, you get friendly with the friendly people, you start talking shit like bros do, and you start telling them about the challenge jurisdiction. They're going to ask what you're in for. Tell the story. If they're in for a nonviolent victimless criminal charge, they can do it too. Get Mark Stevens' motions, file them off. I mean, God, if just 10% of the population did this, it would drastically alter the entire justice system forever. Like, if it got that kind of exposure, because you can't challenge jurisdiction and not be a voluntarist. You can't challenge jurisdiction and still be a Republican or a Democrat. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I think I'll save it for another video. I'm just going to wrap this one up. Hope it was helpful. You know, if it not, oh well. Sorry I wasted your time. That's all I got. See you next time. Alright, just kidding. It's now June 20th. And, I guess I was just kidding. It's now June 20th. Next day, I was gonna upload this, but I decided to include a story that I originally wasn't going to, because primarily it's part of the Leon Valley lawsuit, and plus it involves a couple of fellow cop watchers, buddies, right? Well, I guess I was just kidding. I was going to upload this, but realized, I just do this in one take, first shot. I had forgotten to put a story in here. I originally wasn't going to, because it's part of the Leon Valley lawsuit, but I don't think I'm going to lose anything by sharing it, and it's really pretty applicable to this topic, so I doubt you'll ever find yourself in this situation. This was a really unlikely, unusual situation, but if you do, here's just my comments on it. So, for those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, after this cop watching crew got arrested in the town of Leon Valley, Texas last summer, in fact, it's damn near close to the 1-year anniversary of all this going down. By the way, the judge extended the stay of the civilian lawsuit going forward until the prosecutor is done, and the prosecutor said he'll be done in August, so no update until August or after. Side note. Alright, so I get arrested with like 7 people, total bogus arrests. I mean, what kind of police chief calls a press conference and then arrests everybody at the press conference? I'm still laughing about it. I just could not believe. I wasn't even there either. I was at a store around the corner and just came out and saw what was going on. And they're like, "You too, get over here, you're arrested." After first telling me to go away, which I did. Anyway, sorry. So this whole thing is hilarious to me. So we find ourselves in the basement of this police station, right? It's a big-ish room. There's a conference table in the middle of it. And between 5 p.m. and midnight, when we finally transferred to the San Antonio jail, they had us in this damn room. And at first, for several hours, they had your hands handcuffed behind your back. Now, for those of you who have not experienced this, it's not excruciatingly painful, but it's irritatingly painful. Your arms go numb a little bit after a while, and they know it hurts. It's a very, very, very mild form of torture, and everyone knows it. It's totally unnecessary, especially when nobody did any violence whatsoever, any struggle, any resistance whatsoever to being arrested. Not a single shred of resistance. They could have handcuffed us in front. They didn't. It was behind. All right, so let me get to the part where I was trying to set the scene, and then I'll get to the part about the choices I made and why I made those choices and why I suggest you do too if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. God forbid. So there was a hot box. Now this was, when I saw this, when I realized what was going on, I couldn't believe it. Because this was the second arrest for some people, but for me it was the first. So they had told me about this hot box, so I kind of knew about it, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh my God. Where have I ever heard of a story of cops rotating people in and out of a hot box? No ventilation, no windows. It gets uncomfortably warm in there. It's Texas in June. And they know it. And there's no reason for them to have us in there that is legally, even according to judges, defendable. There's no reason to have a hot box. I can't believe it existed, let alone they were using it like they were. So there's a bunch of cops. There's like one for every arrest, and they're all typing with their index fingers only on keyboards, taking forever, I mean hours, to draw up a police report about what had just happened. And we're BSing with them. I am insulting them. I'm kind of playing with them. I'm having fun with them. I'm embarrassing them with their own decisions and that they follow these orders and how retarded the chief is, this, that, and the other. Chief comes down once or twice every couple hours, tries to talk like he's a smart guy and how we're dumb and how he's winning, and I'm just clowning him the whole time. Oh my gosh. So what I suggest is that it's not like I was going in there and being a defiant pit bull for no reason, okay? My standing is, I'm simply not going to be anybody's bitch. So if you try to start telling me what to do, I'm going to treat you like exactly the piece of shit legalized felon that you are, alright? But if you come in and you're chill with me, and you don't try to dominate me or intimidate me or do any of that, I will be actually chill with you. And the reason why is because it passes the time, number one, but close number two is that if I get to engage a cop who's actually being chill with me in a conversation about what just took place, I am going to not just win with very base level logic and ethics, I'm going to crush. I know this. I mean, I know this 100%. I'm going to dominate that conversation, which is hella fun for me, right? So I suggest that type of attitude. They need to know you're not afraid of them, and if they push, you're going to be a disrespectful, defiant activist. You will show resistance. You will make fun of them. It's always mockery, never anger. It's always disgust and mockery. All right, that's where the power is. If you can make it funny too, like if it was some kind of stand-up routine, all the better, right? If they offer food, now, okay, some of the things I'm gonna say here are different than the choices that some of my cop watching buddies who were there with me made, and I don't want to like disrespect their choices. I'm not trying to insult anybody who would do it differently. I mean, if you ever find yourself arrested with me in the basement of a cop station because you're pointing cameras at cops, dude, I'm on your team. I mean, such a tiny percentage of the population will engage in that. If you do that with me, dude, I'm on your team. Regardless of, you have different methods of what you do when you're there. Anyway, okay, so with that little caveat, they brought us pizzas, right? I ain't eating shit. All right, because see, I know the game. Like I said, I read all those books about the POW experience, and they had hot boxes in Vietnam and places too, right? Torture rooms, right, where they make you super uncomfortable. So it was nothing new to me, and I'm so familiar with the gamesmanship and the psychology behind having and using a hot box, right? Like I know all this, so they're not gonna get what they're looking for from me, all right? And again, when you're there, show zero exhaustion, fatigue, unhappiness, just boredom. Show zero negative emotion. Even if you feel that way, do not show that. You are comfortable, you are confident, you are direct eye contact, you are making every word count. Look the part, right? If they're trying to make you uncomfortable, maximize that discomfort. Never, ever complain about it. Make fun of them for inflicting it and how ridiculous and just blatantly abusive their actions are, and how you're going to rip them in a lawsuit. But, again, don't take it to an angry level. You don't need to drop F-bombs or anything like that. I wouldn't recommend it. When you don't have cameras on, no live streaming camera protection, and the only cameras in the room are police cameras, they control the narrative, not you. So you can only go so far. Let's see, I gotta stay on topic one at a time because there's so much to go into. Okay, so I don't eat their pizza. I'll drink their water because I need to have my mind as mentally sharp as possible, but I don't need to eat. I'm fine. They would rotate us every 15 minutes. We kind of got to decide. They were trying to play a game of who's the leader. This is really what they were doing. I want to know who the leadership is so I can bite the head off this snake so this will go away and they'll never want to come back to Leon Valley again. And the way you do that is by having like a hot box. That's one way. Okay? Now, I don't want to be a leader of any cop watching group because I know this. I don't want them to come crashing down on me because they think I'm the leader, right? I also don't want to be priority number one when they go to the prosecutor's office and be like, burn this guy. Let's put full effect on making this guy's life miserable or difficult, whatever, right? With all their courtroom bullshit. So I never claimed that, but I can't help that it kind of came off that way, and here's how. In one way. So we got to decide how long we'd be in there for, and for maybe the first 2 hours, we just rotated. It was 3 of us. Me, James, and Bao. And we took 15-minute shifts, right? And it is what it is. Your arms are behind your back, your shoulders are aching, you're hot, and there's this tiny, tiny window that's like a classroom door window, like maybe 7 inches wide by 2.5 feet tall type of window, so you can see out into the room. It's really echoey in there, so it's hard to understand. Anyway, my point is, the other two were kind of, you could see it in their face that the discomfort was wearing on them. I didn't want the cops to see this, right? And I don't tell these guys this. I never have this conversation with them, because I'm not going to be like, oh, I know better and you need to do this instead, but I didn't want that to happen. I did not want the cops to see that what they were doing was being in the least bit effective, right, at getting us down in any way, shape, or form. So And because it wasn't horribly hot in there, it wasn't like super uncomfortable, I would take my turn and then just stay. So I'd do like a 45-minute shift instead of 15. And then I'd come out for 15 and then maybe go back in for like another 45 minutes or something like that. Those aren't exact figures, but that's kind of what it went down. So eventually some other higher up cop came into the room, probably about 9-10 o'clock at night or something like that. He was one of the few that was chill with me, so I was chill with him. We get to talking. Of course, I start going into what this is all about and live streaming cameras and the challenge of jurisdiction and how all this is based on might makes right and taxes are stolen welfare money for you and and no cop would ever do this if he wasn't being paid, right? I mean, if the police department said, hey, we're still going to pay you whether or not you come into work, they would never come into work. It's not like some honor-driven duty or oath that they give a shit about. It's all just bribery. It's all just paychecks, and I mean using egos, right? Flexing how there are no good cops. They're all bad cops because they're either you're doing something bad or you're turning a blind eye to bad shit that's happening. But I was giving it to him respectful like, right? And he even said at one point, man, I bet it'd be fun to have a conversation with you over maybe a bottle of Jack on a porch or something. And we were just kind of laughing a little bit with him. And again, I don't need to be an angry pit bull all the time. There's advantages to getting that rapport with a higher up dude like that. It lets them know, oh, this guy just isn't a permanent, angry, hates us no matter what type guy. This guy can actually articulate his position, knows where he's coming from, where he's going verbally. He's done this a time or two before, obviously. He can make a very convincing argument to John Q. Taxpayer, which is where all the power is, right? The enemy of the government is a power powerful enough to dethrone it or to restrict the government's power. And that's the public. And that's why the public is the enemy of the government, even no matter what the government types say. Anyway, I digress. So there was that. Another time, I was just openly clowning the room, and I was just talking to my buddies, but everybody could hear. And I was just like, these cops don't give a shit about their job. They don't care about anything other than having that coward button walkie-talkie back everybody up. Because, they wouldn't be doing this to anybody on the street unless they had a uniform and a gun. They'd never get away with it. I do things to stop them. They know this. They just know they're going to get endless help from the lawyers and the judges. A lot of these cops don't even care about their job. They're just waiting for their pension. I mean, all they really want to do, it's a simpleton's life. Go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, occasionally fuck their wives and call it a day. And when I said that, this older cop got pissed. It was like his wife had died or had cancer or wouldn't fuck him. Or when I said that, occasionally fuck their wives and call it a day, woo, he got pissed. So I'm sitting at the conference table with my hands cuffed behind my back, sitting in a chair, like a swivel chair, right? There's a cop to my left, a cop to my right, and the pissed one is directly opposite me. He comes storming 10 feet at a rather rapid pace to the edge of the conference table, which was about 5 feet wide, and says, "Cameras off." Now, this is just a tactic they use to scare people. I just think this is all bullshit. I didn't buy it from the jump. Instantly, both the lower-ranking cop to the left and the right push the top button on their camera, and it's like the light goes off or something. Like they turn off the audio portion, but the video is still going or something. Whether it was real or not, they pretended to turn off the audio, and then he tells me, what is it that he said? Something about, you've got a mouth, and for a split second, I was like, did I just piss off this guy enough for him to come lunging across the table, take a swing at me, while I've got my hands handcuffed behind my back? Like, that thought for a split second went through my head. But he was basically saying something, I wish I could remember. I gotta get this footage, man. Something about, you've got a mouth, or, he expressed his displeasure at what I said. And then he waited for a response, and I was like, I had to come up with this quick. He goes, "What do you think you're doing?" or something like that. I go, "It's called not exercising your free speech," which is just a confusing way to say, it's free speech. I can say what I want. I'm using free speech. But I put it in a way where, he had to kind of sit there and figure it out for a second what it was I just said. And then I realized, oh, okay, he's not going to come lunging across the table. Whew. So it's kind of like, that's kind of how I typically am anyway. I don't mind getting more and more and more and more assertive or defiant, even mocking, especially, up to a certain line. Once you sense, every cop's got a bet. For all you know, these cops were murdering people in Iraq and Afghanistan, kicking in doors, killing God knows what, calling it friendly fire. Oops, oh well, they'll never get in trouble for it. They come home with their medals, their paycheck, and then they become a cop. You don't know what kind of psycho you've got in front of you. Every cop is a roll of the dice. It just might be a really bad day for him, and you're just the guy that he just is done putting up with his bullshit, and that lands on you. Like, watch out. So I'll push till I sense like I hit a line, then I'll back up a little bit, give it a little bit of time, then I'll push till I hit a line, and I'll back up a little bit. This is what I do to judges in courtrooms too. It's fucking awesome. So let me get back to my original point. I'm gonna wrap this up. When they saw that I was okay, so like I came out after like a 45-minute shift in the room, and the sheriff guy that I was talking to was in a better mood or whatever. He took the cuffs off of me as I sat down, and I just did nothing but stretch. I put my arms on the table, I leaned as far forward as I could, and I just stretched the shit out of my shoulders because they were killing. I did that for about 5 minutes, and I said, all right, I'm ready. He goes, you want to go back in there? I'm like, yep. Now, not to be a hero or anything, it's just, again, to show them, there's nothing heroic about that, by the way. It was so easy. It wasn't even hard, relatively speaking, at all. Show him that this place ain't nothing. This place ain't shit to me. Like, you better have a whole lot more you're bringing at me than this, because this level of stuff will not only never work on me, won't even affect me. I'll be laughing at this. This is a great story I'm gonna have the rest of my life. Like, you clowns are ridiculous in every sense of the word, in every way a person can be. So it was, so he was, thank God he put the cuffs in front, and I spent more time in the goddamn room or whatever, and then at one point we all came out and nobody else had to go back in there or whatever for the last couple hours, and we were all either not handcuffed or handcuffed up front, so the rear pain stuff stopped. I'm just bouncing all this off you because it was such a weird situation, and yet within the situation there were a lot of little mini situations. I don't know if I would really verbally tangle with the cops unless I was supremely confident and capable at effectively exposing their brutality, even though they consider it serving and protecting, right? Like, they're not taught ethics. They don't know the Socratic method. They don't know that they don't have jurisdiction. They don't know the slightest thing about a prosecutor's office or what it is to be a lawyer, and they're called law enforcement. So to them, they're not taught this stuff, and when they hear it, not all of them objects to it, especially when you're coming from a place of, look, I'm done insulting you. Now I'm having a conversation with you. This is why I do. You want to know why I do this? This is why I do this. You want to know what brought me here from hundreds of miles away? This. You know why all of us are here from around the country? This issue right here. And your chief is just a way outlier and thinks he can get away with shit that other police chiefs don't. If they did that, we'd be there instead. This department does this crazy, whacked out, crazy train shit. And so you just have this conversation. And so who knows what kind of effect this has. But at no point in time did I feel any kind of danger. God only knows what cops do these days, right? But if you can talk a decent game, and not be the physically resistant type, don't present any kind of a threat, obviously, then they're just going to process you and get you out because they don't give a shit. They want this over and done with, and then it's on the prosecutors and the judge that's not out of their hands. Unless they get sued, which is exactly what happened. Oh, I cannot wait. I know what's going to happen. They're going to give the 11 of us a pissant 5-figure offer. And I don't know who's going to take it, but some of them are. Not me. Oh, not me. So whoever declines the offer goes to trial. I'm going to trial. I am rolling that dice. If I don't see at least a 7-figure offer for what they did, the sexual assault in the jail, the house of horrors, that prison that was more like a mental institution, the ridiculousness of arresting some. Here's a little. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to. So anytime a cop says to me, "Give me your camera," or "Do this," or "Do that," my instant response is, "I'm only gonna do it if you're gonna arrest me if I'm not." I think I got out, "I'm only gonna," and he's like, "You're under arrest." So they didn't let me finish the sentence. If they would let me, and I've got this on other videos. Okay, I've done this in Hawaii. I've done this in Texas. In what was the name of that other town we were at? I forget. With Darla Peavy. Anyway, I have a history of doing this. I'm only going to do it if you threaten me with violence. Are you threatening me with violence? And if they say yes, then I'll comply. And if they say no, then I don't. But I don't just do what a cop asks me to do or tells me to do. Especially under those circumstances where I'm walking away, not even involved in the press conference, and they just want to arrest me punitively to punish me. So, if he would have let me get out the sentence, I would have handed him my phone, and I wouldn't have been arrested at all. But he just, 2 words that weren't okay, immediately hand over the phone, oh, you're under arrest. And that was it. There were 2 more cops heading my direction, walking quickly. Like, that was it. So if I don't see a 7-figure, I'm going to trial. Even if I get 0, I don't give a shit. Because the recording that I am going to get in that courtroom, I'm going to say things in that quote-unquote American courtroom that have never been said in an American courtroom before. That jury is going to hear me describe not just the police department, but the civilian leadership there, the lawyers, the jail, the system, the judges, everything. I'm going to say things that are going to humiliate them, and then I'm going to put it online. And that to me is worth a lot of money. But I'm certainly not going to settle for a measly 5 or barely 6-figure offer. Alright, I think that's done with my story. I really need to get with the other members of the lawsuit and start getting our heads in the same space. That'll probably happen. In any case, this one's really done. I'm going to render, upload, and go from there. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for listening. All that. Take care. Be careful. Be safe. Talk to you later.